You're listening to Where You Live with Gene Sullivan.
Welcome back. I'm Gene Sullivan, broadcasting from the True North Painting Studios. This show is brought to you by American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency, and Extreme Exteriors. Before we get on with our next story and guest, I'd like to let our listeners know we've got a free gift for you. We put together a bi-monthly newsletter that is yours free for the asking. A lot of what we talk about on the show, we talk about in further detail. Folks that we have as guests on the show also are contributors for that newsletter. Give us a call at New Concepts during the week, won't you, at 952-922-2500. Ask for Lori, and she'll make sure that you start receiving your subscription either electronically or by mail. Well, I want to welcome back to the show attorney Dan Greenstein from Bernick Lifson. Hello, Dan.
Hello, Gene. How are you doing?
I'm good. And how are you?
Wonderful today.
Good. I'm glad that you could take a few minutes to be on the show today. We've been talking. I know you're dealing with a number of issues for homeowner associations, but this one in particular that I want you to kind of relate for our listeners really is an unfortunate one where there is almost an unfair treatment or liability that the HOA or the Homeowners Association is being responsible for, and they have not directly done any act or anything here that has been discriminatory, but they're the ones that are kind of being held responsible. Would you say that's a fair statement?
I think that sounds exactly right, Gene. It's a situation where it's a condominium association in the Hennepin County, and one of the owners of a unit in the condominium started renting out his unit, which is okay, and that's fine with the association documents. He's renting his unit to a family from Somalia. The family has a disabled child, and part of the disability causes this young girl to scream often, very loudly, and the screaming goes on pretty much at all hours of the day and the evening. So the neighbors who live in the adjoining units started making complaints to the Homeowners Association Board of Directors. And the board did their duty. They looked into it. They found that the noise was unreasonable, and they contacted the owner of that rental unit, who was a member of the association, to have a discussion about it. Well, skip to the end of the story a little bit, and the owner encourages the family from Somalia to file a claim under the federal fair housing law for discrimination. Now, just as a reminder, the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination against any person in the terms or conditions or the services or facilities in real estate, including when you're renting a dwelling, based upon some protected classes. There are 6 protected classes under the federal law: race, color, religion, sex, familial status, which for the most part refers to children, or national origin.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, Dan. Now, you said that the owner of this unit who is renting out to this Somali family was the one who, when the association came to him and said, let's have a discussion, he encouraged his renter to file a claim. That appears...
That's right, or at least threaten a claim.
Okay, to me that appears to be that the person was really not interested in trying to discuss and just settle in an amicable manner the situation, but just seemed to kind of stir the waters and kind of gin things up a little bit.
Well, many on the board of directors of the association feels that this particular owner kind of has a chip on his shoulder when it comes to the board. He's had some run-ins with the board in the past, and they at least believe, some of them believe, that he's doing whatever he can to be a thorn in their side. But you're right. In this particular case, he basically, I'm being told that he has said that, hey, you can do whatever you want in the unit because you're of a protected class. The association and the neighbors cannot do anything about it. And again, that would protect his income stream if he keeps these tenants living in the unit and paying the rent to him.
So this was put forward with HUD as an opening investigation. Is that right?
Well, it hasn't actually gone to that step, although that step is being threatened often.
Okay. So,
all right. And one of the things I just wanted to finish up real quick is these classifications of protected status: race, color, religion, sex, familial status, and national origin. In this particular case, the Somali family has 5 of 6 of these classifications. They basically have a perfecta going here, where if somebody is discriminating, it can come in under any of those protected classes.
Yeah. So you're right. So what has happened then to date? So the association went to him, and the owner said to his renters, "We think you should file a claim," and so they have, or they haven't?
They have not yet filed a claim. The association was put in a very difficult position. A number of the adjacent neighbors were complaining to the association about noise. The noise is a violation of the governing documents. The Somali family began filing complaints with the association board about being harassed and being followed and being sneered at and having comments made to them by the adjoining neighbors. Okay. So the association finds these violations, and what are they able to do? Well, they're able to fine either the owner of the rental unit for the noise coming from the tenants, or fine the neighbors for the actions that they were taking, of the harassment of the tenant.
Sounds like the association's in the between the proverbial rock and hard place here.
Impossible place. And we all kind of know that fining these players for these particular violations would not settle anything and would probably just heat up the tension between the neighbors. So the association did a couple of things that I think were really smart. Number one, they contacted the Legal Aid Society and they asked them to provide a training person to give a training seminar for all parties involved on discrimination and working out these types of disputes. That did take place in the morning, and then the same afternoon, the association hired a very well-educated attorney on these types of issues to act as a mediator, to sit down with all of these parties and try and work out a settlement.
Okay. And what happened as a result? So they had that meeting, I take it.
They had that meeting. They reached a tentative settlement, which essentially involved the association contributing a fairly large sum of money towards soundproofing of the unit where the Somali family lived.
Okay, so it sounds like the association's really tried to be proactive here, and they said, well, maybe if the issue is you've got someone that's too loud that the mother can't control for reasonable reasons, and other people are bothered, and that's reasonable too. Let's try and soundproof. And so is that what the association's moving forward with?
Well, when we left the mediation agreement, we all thought that was going to be the settlement of and resolution of the dispute. And 90% of the parties that came and went through the training and mediated this dispute signed the settlement agreement. One person refused to sign, and that unwound the entire settlement. Oh. That person was the owner that was renting his unit to the Somali family.
So everybody else agreed, but this fellow, to me, that would kind of seem to show if everybody else was in agreement, That seems to me a guy who's still carrying a chip on his shoulder, I would think.
Well, that certainly gives a little credibility to some of the board members' feelings that this owner had a chip on his shoulder. And the owner decided he was going to go out on his own and get some different kind of bids for soundproofing and figure out what kind of soundproofing he would like to install.
Okay.
Well, now, time goes by. We're all sitting tight, waiting to hear from him. Meanwhile, we have a settlement agreement that's not really effective yet. The noise coming from the tenant's unit in the condominium continues. The complaints from the neighboring units continue to come into the homeowners association. The Somali family feels the tension from the neighboring units, feels like they're being harassed. Comments are made back and forth in the hallways or in the parking garage. The problem continues to escalate.
And with that, let me just say we're going to take a break right now. So, folks, hold on. Hold your breath. We'll be back with Dan Greenstein from Bernick Lifson. We'll find out what is happening in this case of, is it an unfair treatment with an HOA that's being responsible for the conduct of another individual or individuals in the association? We'll talk about this and what is happening in this case after these messages.